The neighborhood meeting was already a dumpster fire, and Karen hadn't even opened her mouth yet. By the time she did, it was like tossing a Molotov cocktail into a room full of dynamite. The air in Willow Creek's community center was thick with tension, the kind that makes your skin prickle and your stomach knot. 50 residents crammed into folding chairs, their faces a mix of exhaustion and barely contained fury. At the front, Karen stood tall, her perfectly coiffed hair and crisp blazer a stark contrast to the worn-out linoleum floor. She was the self-appointed queen of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, a title she wielded like a scepter. Her latest crusade? Enforcing community standards on a house that hadn't mowed its lawn in months, a house that belonged to Staff Sergeant Daniel Carter, a wounded veteran who'd barely made it back from his third tour alive. Karen tapped her manicured nails on the podium, her voice dripping with condescension. If we let one property slide, the whole neighborhood goes to ruin. Sergeant Carter's yard is an eyesore: weeds, trash, and those tacky fake flowers on his porch. It's a disgrace. She paused for effect, expecting nods of agreement. Instead, the room went dead silent, the kind of quiet that feels like a storm about to break. In the back row, Daniel sat in his wheelchair, his jaw tight. His left leg was gone below the knee, a sacrifice to an IED in Fallujah. His face, weathered beyond his 32 years, was a map of scars and resolve. Beside him, his sister Emily gripped the armrests of her chair, her knuckles white. The fake flowers Karen mocked? They were plastic daisies Daniel's 6-year-old daughter, Lily, had placed on the porch before she and her mom moved out last year, unable to cope with Daniel's PTSD. Those flowers were the last thing Lily touched before she stopped calling him Daddy. Emily stood, her voice shaking but clear. You're calling a veteran's home a disgrace? He served 3 tours, Karen. 3. And you're whining about his lawn. The room murmured, a low growl of agreement. Karen's smile didn't waver, but her eyes narrowed. She was used to getting her way, bullying neighbors into compliance with her endless rules. But this time she'd picked the wrong fight. The trouble started 6 months ago, when Daniel moved into the small ranch-style house on Maple Drive. It was a fixer-upper bought with his disability payout. He kept to himself, struggling with physical therapy and nightmares that woke him screaming. The HOA, led by Karen, sent letters about his overgrown lawn and peeling paint. Daniel ignored them, was too busy learning to walk again. Then came the fines, piling up like shrapnel in his mailbox. When he didn't pay, Karen escalated, posting a public notice on the HOA's online forum, Maple Drive Delinquent. A veteran's neglect drags us all down. She included a photo of Daniel's porch, zooming in on Lily's plastic daisies with a caption, tacky and shameful. The post went viral in Willow Creek's tight-knit community. Neighbors who'd never met Daniel started whispering. Some pitied him. Others, swayed by Karen's rhetoric, called him lazy. But the tide turned when Emily, a nurse who'd moved in to help her brother, saw the post. She printed it, marched to the community center, and taped it to the bulletin board with a red marker circling Karen's words. Underneath, she wrote, "This is a veteran's home. Shame on you, Karen." By the next morning, the neighborhood was buzzing. People stopped by Daniel's house, not to gawk but to help. Old Mr. Thompson, who'd fought in Vietnam, mowed the lawn. The Martinez kids pulled weeds. Mrs. Patel, who ran the bakery, left a tray of cookies with a note, "You're not alone." But Karen doubled down. At the next HOA meeting, she proposed a lien on Daniel's house, claiming his non-compliance lowered property values. That's when the room exploded. "You're a vulture, Karen?" shouted Tom, the burly mechanic from Oak Street. "You're profiting off a soldier's pain." Others joined in, their voices overlapping in a chorus of outrage. Karen tried to regain control, banging her gavel, but the crowd was done listening. Daniel, who'd been silent until now, raised a hand. The room hushed. "I don't care about your fines," he said, his voice low but steady. "I fought for this country, not your HOA. Those flowers? My daughter put them there. They're all I have left of her." His words hit like a punch to the gut. Even Karen faltered, her face paling. But she recovered quickly, snapping, "Rules are rules, Sergeant. If you can't maintain your property, maybe you don't belong here." That was the spark. Emily stood again, her voice now a blade. "If anyone doesn't belong, it's you, Karen. You've turned this neighborhood into a dictatorship." She turned to the crowd. "Who's with me? We boycott this HOA. No more dues. No more meetings. No more Karen." Hands shot up, cheers erupted, and Karen's gavel fell silent. Over the next week, the boycott took shape. Neighbors stopped paying HOA dues, canceled events, and ignored Karen's frantic emails. Signs appeared on lawns. "Support Daniel. Dissolve the HOA." Karen's pristine colonial became a ghost town. No one waved. No one stopped by. Her husband, a quiet accountant, started avoiding her gaze. The community she'd ruled was slipping through her fingers. But the real blow came at the town hall meeting. Daniel, pushed by Emily, spoke publicly for the first time. He didn't mention Karen. Instead, he talked about Lily, her laugh, her love for daisies, and how he'd failed her by letting his trauma win. "I didn't fight for my house," he said. "I fought for her, and I'm still fighting." The room was silent, save for a few stifled sobs. Then, one by one, people stood. Not for a vote, but for him. Karen, cornered and desperate, tried one last move. She filed a lawsuit against Daniel for the unpaid fines, claiming it was her fiduciary duty. The judge, a veteran himself, threw out the case in 10 minutes. "You're harassing a hero," he said, his voice cold. "Get out of my courtroom." The neighbors cheered outside, but Daniel didn't join them. He went home, sat on his porch and touched Lily's daisies, his eyes wet. The HOA dissolved within a month. Karen moved away, her house sold at a loss. Willow Creek rebuilt itself. Not with rules, but with kindness, barbecues, tool sharing, kids playing in Daniel's yard. But the victory was bittersweet. Daniel's phone stayed silent. Lily never called. The daisies stayed, faded but untouched, a reminder of a war he was still fighting. The neighborhood learned a hard lesson. Community isn't built on perfection, but on compassion. Karen's reign exposed the cracks in their unity, but Daniel's courage patched them. Yet the story lingers, heavy and unresolved. Was Karen the villain, or was she just a product of a system that values lawns over lives? Should Daniel forgive himself, or is his guilt the price of survival? Share your thoughts. What does justice look like in a community torn apart?